Hey listeners, we're really glad you're here, and we want to make sure that this podcast reaches as many people as possible. So share this podcast with your friends and family, write a review, and show us some love.
From PBS NewsHour Student Reporting Labs
and WETA Wellbeings,
this is On Our Minds
with Matt
and Faiza,
a podcast about teenagers and mental health, because life is hard.
And we're all going through something, and hearing stories about what other teens are going through and how they're getting better, it helps. A note before we get started. Today, we're going to be discussing middle school. Issues like anxiety and depression come up, so if you or someone you know needs help, we have a list of resources at studentreportinglabs.org/mental health resources.
Also, we recommend you listen to this podcast with a friend or a trusted adult. Hi Faiza.
Hey Matt.
So last week we heard from Disha and Dr. Talib about tips for using phones and social media in a healthy way. Just curious, when did you get your first phone? Because that's such a big moment for most people.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So I actually got my first working phone in the middle of 7th grade. I've always had those, fake phones that your parents gave you just to make you feel better about yourself, but it really had no other purpose than texting or calling, since my parents basically banned social media or even internet usage for me. So at the time, the lack of social media honestly was a devastating thing because I felt left out. But in hindsight, it definitely helped more than hurt. How about you, Matt?
I got my first phone in 6th grade. It was a really beaten up phone. It was one of the first iPhones. I remember it was just a hand-me-down with a cracked screen, and my parents were the same. They did not want me on social media. I ended up downloading it behind their backs, but I actually think that social media at that time was pretty negative, so I think that I probably should have listened to them.
Today's episode is all about middle school.
Students at I Promise School, which is a middle school in Akron, Ohio, talked in small groups about what they like and also find hard about being in middle school. Let's hear what they have to say.
My middle school experience been great so far. I feel like I'm just now starting to be looked at as a young adult.
One thing I like about being in middle school right now, I like the responsibility.
Everybody took that step in becoming like a middle schooler. Everybody feels mature now. Everybody feels bigger now. I feel like you have to deal with people putting stuff on you, but at the same time, you're dealing with stuff that's already on you.
I didn't know that there's going to be a lot of drama in middle school than elementary.
I feel like my mental health has gotten worse. I catch myself having more anxiety, and I catch myself getting angrier easily. One little thing can make me mad and ruin my whole day. If I'm late to a class or I don't get this in on time, I start sweating and I'll get scared, and it's hard being a 7th grader with anxiety.
The hardest part about 7th grade middle school to me is going from class to class, meeting new teachers and adjusting to their teaching style.
I feel like we need more communication. Our teachers should let us communicate with them and have a conversation. If you want to talk to somebody, you should be able to listen to what the other person got to say at that moment, and we should be able to talk about what you want to say too and agree and disagree. I'm the type of person that doesn't like to tell people about my feelings sometimes. Sometimes I would just like to keep my feelings inside for a little bit so I know actually what I'm feeling. Because at the moment, I could feel upset and then be upset over nothing.
I love going to my mom about stuff, especially it doesn't even have to be a bad situation. I love going to her just to talk, just to have fun.
Some of my friends now, they kind of help me with certain situations I'm not comfortable with saying with certain teachers.
We all need different advice and answers to what we go through.
We have our bad times rough or down, but at the end of the day, we are family.
I love how those middle schoolers feel like a family, since I know from my personal experience that doesn't always happen.
Yeah, and their school saying actually is, "We are family." The school was started by LeBron James, and LeBron has even tweeted videos that the students have done for student reporting labs.
Wouldn't it be amazing if we got LeBron to come as a guest to On Our Minds?
LeBron, if you're listening to this, call us up. We want to talk to you.
Fingers crossed. Okay, Faiza, what was middle school like for you?
Honestly, middle school was really difficult for me. I always felt like I was transitioning between different friend groups, different ideas, different thoughts, and it was really difficult to kind of establish an identity for myself as you really don't know who you are or what you're going to do.
I agree with you. I think that middle school was definitely not the best time of my life. I think we all know that middle school is very awkward, so I'd say that high school is definitely better in that regard. But in middle school, my main thing, just like you, was that social aspect and really finding myself among different friend groups and trying to find where I fit into that larger school ecosystem.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's when I started to develop that double standard to myself where I was pressuring myself and seeing other people's accomplishments and, as you said, that ecosystem within a school and that hierarchy.
So I actually recently wrote a letter to my middle school self, and this was back in January, and this was when Student Reporting Labs produced a special program called Our New Normal. And throughout the show, teens and celebrities read a lot of letters, and these were letters that they wrote to their middle school selves, like what they wish they had known then. It was definitely a really rewarding experience, and overall, it was just very interesting because I've obviously thought back on middle school, on those memories I had, on those friendships I've had, but I guess I never really took the effort to put myself back in that headspace, which never allowed me to see how much I've really grown since then.
I honestly think that I would tell my middle school self to enjoy life more. You don't have those same pressures as AP classes or IB classes that I know Matt and I are taking. So definitely just embrace life and don't worry about what other people have to think of you because honestly, whatever they think of you is going to change in the future.
Here are a few other letters people wrote to their middle school selves. This first one is from Meera Varma, a junior at UCLA. She was recently chosen as part of MTV's first ever Mental Health Youth Action Forum, where she'll be meeting with the Biden administration this month to create mental health campaigns. Let's take a listen.
Dear Middle School Meera, if I could go back in time, I would want you to know that the emotional changes you are going through are not just hormones or because of puberty. What you are going through is more than that. You'll later come to learn that you've been living with depression and anxiety for a long time, and that's okay. Having mental health challenges doesn't make you weak or different. I wish I could tell you to start therapy sooner because it would have made so many things easier growing up. I want you to know that you are deserving of having people in your life that treat you with kindness, respect, and make you feel loved. Those cliques in middle school that you're being excluded from are not a reflection of you. Having friends is about quality, not quantity. Surround yourself with people who make you feel loved and accepted for who you are. You are worth more than how others treat you. Please be good to yourself and kind to yourself. Things might get harder as you get older, but that doesn't mean you can't survive through it all.
I loved how Meera emphasized the importance of self-kindness and self-respect.
Yeah, I definitely wish I would have had this advice when I was in middle school, especially the part when she talked about how having friends is about quality and not quantity, since I feel like in middle school I sought out having as many friends as possible, whereas now in high school I feel better about myself because I've really took the time to establish closer bonds with a smaller amount of people. Now, you might be familiar with the author of this next letter. It's Rudy Pankow, most known for his role in the popular Netflix show Outer Banks.
My friend is obsessed with that show. Let's listen.
Dear Middle School Rudy Pankow, don't worry about how far others get. I promise, if you push yourself to the furthest you can possibly go, you won't be disappointed how far you end up. Remember, it's way more impressive to try and fail with a smile on your face than not try at all. Always thank those who check in with you, even if that's just your mom and dad. Maybe try checking in with them a little more often.
Next week on Our Minds, we'll hear a conversation with Jacob, who's one of our student reporters, and Darryl McDaniels, who's also known as DMC from RUN-DMC, a huge hip-hop group from the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, McDaniels talks about his memoir and shares what growing up was like for him and the lessons he's learned. Here's a sneak peek.
When I was young and little, I got teased, bullied, and picked on. I was a straight A student. I was a geeky, nerdy kid that wore glasses, who went to Catholic school. So my life was kind of miserable because I wasn't like the cool kids. I watched a million kids stop doing the things that were good to be accepted with the people who were not even feeling good about themselves. But long story short, what happened to me? Okay, so I was able to do music. And hip hop for me wasn't about show business. Everything that was wrong with me or considered wrong with me and not acceptable to those kids, when I got in the music business, I remembered all of them. But I didn't have to hit back at them. I didn't have to disrespect them. I didn't have to punch them. I didn't have to physically or emotionally harm them back. I took the microphone and said, D is for doing it all of the time. M's for the rhymes, that are mine. C is for cool ass can be. And Ron would ask me, why you wear those glasses? And I told the whole world, so I can see. So who you are, the way you are, but even deeper, what you are, is perfect. Don't change who you are to satisfy a group of people. Don't change who you are to satisfy a person. And if those persons don't want to be down with you or around you, good. The very people needed to be around you will find you.
Don't change who you are to satisfy someone else. That is great advice.
Look out for Jacob's one-on-one conversation with Darryl DMC McDaniels coming out next.
It's gonna be really good.
Today's stories were produced by I Promise School students in Akron, Ohio.
Meera Varma from UCLA and actor Rudy Pankow.
Today's episode was produced and edited by production assistant Jaylah Moore-Ross with help from Briget Ganske.
Executive producer Leah Clapman and the rest of the Student Reporting Lab staff.
Music by Blue Dot Sessions.
Once again, if you or someone you know needs help, we have a list of resources at studentreportinglabs.org/mental health resources.
And tell your friends about us. Spread the word. The more people who know about mental health, the better.